Hi again. Welcome to part 2 of the story. So if you haven't already watched the video before, because that is where I describe what happened when I first started experiencing depersonalization, like a sudden onset, and I'm just going to go ahead and continue the story. So I had been to the doctors a lot of times, to the hospital. They'd done a lot of tests. They said nothing was wrong. So the crisis team had been round. They said I should go on antidepressants. So anyway, I went to the GP and got my prescription of sertraline, and I'm terrified of pharmaceuticals, and there is a reason for that, but I'll come to that later. So I thought they wanted me to start on 50 milligram, and I thought, right, I'm just going to start really slow and kind of cut the tablet up and have like a tiny bit each day and build my way up. So I started taking them. This is about a month after the whole breakdown. I had lost a stone and a half over the month. I just couldn't eat, but I was starting to eat like mashed potato again and very like plain bland foods. I was managing to eat without like purging. The nausea I had was relentless constantly. I just felt sick as a dog. But eventually I started eating vegetables and then worked my way up to start eating like more solid foods. So I put a little bit of weight back on. To be honest, I was overweight a little bit anyway, so it wasn't like a massive deal for me. I think I was like 12 stone when it happened, and then I went down to like 10 and a half, maybe a bit more, so it wasn't like a big deal. Anyway, I got the antidepressants and I started taking them, and within about 4 days I just felt like a zombie, like a vegetable. It didn't help the anxiety, it didn't help the depersonalization, it made it worse, it made it much worse. I was just in a massive fog. My head just felt like I was just like, it was like caked in like just like a bin bag wrapped around my brain. Just couldn't function. And then actually I had started to go back to university. No one really knew what was going on. I didn't tell anyone. I kept it myself at college, uni, and I went to uni and I just kept myself to myself, kept it really reserved, didn't really speak. I was just like, I was suppressing a panic attack every time I went in, but I just thought I'm going to have to try and pull myself back to society and function, because if I let this consume me, then I probably will end up like suicidal, and I need to somehow live, like find the strength to keep living, and maybe it'll just subside. Maybe I just need to first have the courage to do things and then see the results after. Because I've noticed one thing, which is a lesson I've learned so many lessons out of this, like it's crazy, but one thing I've learned is that courage doesn't come with before you take action about something, it comes after. So if you fear something and you don't have the courage to do it, no one does when they fear something. You have to do it and get through it, and then courage will come after. And then you think next time, you know, I've done it before, I can do it again. So it's the way I seen going into university. I wasn't working, like I had been working before this happened. I was just like doing delivery driving for fast food, but I just couldn't, like I felt so dizzy driving around, so I just kind of was just going to uni. And the antidepressants lasted 2 weeks. At one point I actually had to ring the doctors and say I need some benzodiazepate to get me through each day, because it's hell while these adjust. And I remember I was actually on this group for people who just started taking Zoloft, is the different name for sertraline, and there were so many people saying like, I'm struggling, I'm suffering, like, and then people were going, write it out, it gets better. After 2 weeks, things just start getting better. It gets worse before it gets better. And I thought, right, that's me. 2 weeks of hell and then I'll be okay. I lasted like 2.5 weeks and I just couldn't do it anymore. I just thought like, this isn't gonna work. Like it was just, I just felt like a zombie and I didn't want to feel like that. It was just making me really anxious. So I come off them cold turkey. So I was still on diazepam, and I was only taking a milligram a day at bedtime. I come off the antidepressants, took cold turkey. I didn't really get much withdrawal, to be honest. I was that much in hell anyway. I just didn't give it a crap. Kept on the diazepam for a couple of days after I come off those as well. So I was on them about a month actually. So it was actually more than a couple of days, about a week after. At this point I thought, right, I'm going to have to naturally solve my problem, and I thought, right, this is a mental health problem. Stress can do things to your stomach, you can get dissociated when you're under too much stress. Maybe I've got some sort of PTSD. I need to dig out the root of my problem. So I went down the psychological route, and I know things very well about how to treat psychological things, mental health problems. I've always been my own therapist. I've always known what to do. So I set out on a mission to dig to the root of my problem. I started to see a private psychoanalysis therapist. It was quite expensive, but I just thought, I don't care. Had a few savings, and I thought, if anything is saved, if any reason someone saves, it's for this. It's an emergency. So I started seeing this very good, actually, psychotherapist. We went into like past trauma. I haven't really got a lot of trauma, to be honest with you, but it's in the eye of the perceiver, isn't it? So we kind of thought that I had PTSD. Maybe it's like my childhood had regressed somehow, just inexplicably. So we worked on that. We've done a lot of trauma work. I done some EMDR, which is eye movement desensitization reprogramming. It's basically where you follow a moving, usually a finger, and as you think of your trauma, it kind of processes it. So I've done some of that, like self-administered online. I done this. So this went on from February till like May. I actually ended the relationship I was in because he became quite critical of how I was. He didn't really understand. He was making me feel worse. He thought I was being dramatic. So I had to end it. That really broke my heart. But I just thought, I have to just wade through all the crap to get to the other side. Like when you're in hell, you just have to keep going. There was no turning back. I just had to keep going through. So I just went through a lot of horrible things. Lockdown hit as well in March. So I just thought, I'm moving into my mum's house. I had someone there because I was living here with my ex-partner. I couldn't stay here, so I lived at my mum's. She's really welcoming and fine with it anyway, so she was happy. So lockdown hit, university closed, and I thought, I'm going to do everything I possibly can to heal. There's a guy on Facebook called The Anxiety Guy. He's from America. He is a genius. He's really good. If you've got anxiety issues, his videos, he talks about depersonalization as well. And his videos are really insightful. So I thought, I went down the whole path of affirmations, journaling, reframing, like reprogramming my whole brain, the way I've perceived things. I bought a CBT book as well, and I'd done the whole course of CBT, and it actually really did help the anxiety. I was feeling like less depressed and less hopeless, and I felt more kind of just like I was able to manage my thoughts, because prior to this, my brain was just going like a wild horse. I was meditating as well, like in this time. It was like a wild horse. I had songs playing in my head all the time, and it was driving us mad. And I felt like internally I was screaming. like I would just be sat silent and I would just be like screaming in my head. Like I just felt so absolutely terrified and full of terror. So I managed to wade through some of that. I mean, the anxiety was still there, but it was bearable to the point where I could leave the house. I could pretend to be normal, but the depersonalization was just heavy still. It was relentless, didn't go away. But the longer it went on, the more I started to get really hopeless about it. I joined the group for depersonalization and derealization support, and some of the posts on there really just made me so full of despair. People were saying they had suffered it for years, could never get out of it, you know, like they were going to kill themselves, and I was just like, I can't do this for years. Like, what am I going to do? It's either suffer with it or die. That's the general idea I had. And that is absolutely heartbreaking. Like, I just thought, like, I'm trapped in my own body. Like, I knew I had so much potential and so much, I wanted to be so much, but this thing had taken over my life and just killed, like, totally ruined it. And like, it makes me feel emotional now, because I just think, like, I've just felt so full of despair. And I remember I would often like get these thoughts of feeling trapped in my own body. I was trying to tell people how I felt, and they just were like, you know, oh, it's just anxiety. And I was like, it's something else. Like, I feel like my brain is trapped in my skull. Like, I wanted to get out of my body. And that's why I felt depersonalized, because the body I was in was causing me suffering, and I didn't know why. And I think that's what a lot of depersonalization is. I'm going to be a bit cosmic here, but it's basically your mind and your soul being in a body that it doesn't want to be in, and whether that's because of trauma, other things that I'll get into. It's just your mind doesn't want to be in it because it's suffering and it wants to be out, and that's why I felt trapped in my body. So that was a depersonalization, and obviously the derealization as well was just as severe. Like, I didn't want to look at people for too long because I couldn't recognize them. It would really frighten me, and I just wanted to lock myself in my own head, in my own world, so I didn't have to look at the outside world and be freaked out. So I did all this work on myself. I spent a lot of money on like just therapy and like programs, books. I must have read like not hundreds, but like maybe like 7 books. There was a lot of good books I read. Like, there was one called Dare, if you've ever heard of that, to stop panic attacks. It's a really good concept. A lot of the things did help, but not with the DR and the DP. So I looked into like codependency. I'm quite codependent by nature. I've always had problems with people pleasing and saying no, and I thought maybe, you know, that's crept into some trauma. I did a lot of work on that. I joined groups for codependent people and worked programs about it. So I spent months just like totally dedicated to my own recovery. I changed my diet as well. That's another total kettle of fish. I stopped drinking alcohol and I started exercising and taking supplements. To be honest, I didn't really know what I was doing. I was just chucking a load of crap at the wall and hoping some of it would stick, and none of it really did. It left a mark, had an impact, but it didn't. Nothing really had knocked this on the head. And I was like, right, well, I never give up though. I just thought, you know, I have a will to live. So I actually thought that maybe if I started to meet new people that it would help, because I had social anxiety. So I started looking for someone to date. I actually met someone online during lockdown and we developed a relationship, which I'm still in now, which is going really well. So from May up until maybe July, I kind of like took a step back from everything and just try to live my life with the depersonalization. Went out every day and suppressed a mental breakdown every day. I just wanted to be like, I can't do it anymore, but I just kept going and kept going and kept going. And it was relentless, like awful really, but I just try to ignore it. Like I would walk into a room and just feel so spaced out, but I would just keep going and do it and keep going and ride the wave through, as they say. So then in July, I kind of like started to just ease off on my self-care, and I just thought, you know, I'm going to have to just live my life the best I can. I started drinking alcohol again. I started just eating like, not what I wanted, but just kind of like not very healthy. I was still taking supplements and stuff, but like I wasn't like focused on it. I was trying not to focus on healing, because I felt like focus on healing was making me worse, because all I could think about was how I felt. So I just tried to live my life. And then anyway, I read something online about the ketogenic diet, like almost curing mental health problems, and I was like, right, okay. So I went on the diet, and it absolutely floored me. I had a panic attack. So I basically cut out all sugar, all carbs, not all of them, but you know, most carbs, and I just went on the diet. I didn't really know what I was doing. I just kind of, I'm all or nothing, I'm black or white, so I just went on the diet. And then I just felt really lightheaded and dizzy all the time. And then it got to the point where one morning I went downstairs to get like my breakfast of like coconut pancake or whatever it was, and I just went dizzy and like spaced out. I looked at my hands, didn't even look like my hands. Ran upstairs to my mum and had another panic attack, and my mum was like, it's just your body reacting, just your mind reacting how your body is. And I was like, why is it doing this though? Like, this is kind of it was a light bulb moment there. And then I was like, something's physically going on with me. Like the derealization just totally set in really bad. I was like, something is physically going on. So I went down the whole Candida path and parasites. I'd started doing parasite cleanses and Candida diet for a few weeks, and I felt awful, but I just thought, you know, it's the die-off, it's the Herxheimer reaction. The toxins are coming out of my body, I'm detoxing, it's going to be better, I'm going to be better. And this is where things turned around. So I was on a group for Candida diet, and someone wrote in, you guys know that you need to deal with heavy metals before you do any cleanses. And I was thinking, like, heavy metals, like, what do you mean? So I looked into heavy metals, and you know, there's things like copper, lead, whatever, and I thought, well, why would I have heavy metals in my body? Like, how could I just suddenly have heavy metals? And then anyway, I looked, there's obviously mercury that can be in your body as well. And I decided to join a lot of groups for heavy metal toxicity, and I thought, you know, maybe I'll find some answers there. And then I come across an article of somebody talking about amalgam fillings causing like physical and mental illnesses. And then I read a blog about a woman who woke up one day severely ill, like I was, suicidal and everything. Her story was my story. And then it turns out she was actually 2 days away from killing herself. She was in America. She actually spent 3 years like this. She couldn't leave the house. And then she went to a doctor, I think it's like a holistic doctor, and they were like, you do know that you might have mercury poisoning? And she was like, right. And they done a test, and it turns out she had mercury poisoning. So she cured. I don't know how, because she didn't really go into that, but she's basically a normal person now. I was like, like, how? What, mercury poisoning? Like, how would that happen? And And then it dawned on me that actually a month before this happened, I had my very first amalgam filling put in. 2 amalgam fillings actually, one on the top, one on the bottom. And I remember that when I had them put in, they were quite big in my mouth. They wouldn't really, like, my teeth wouldn't join properly. They were kind of like that. So I was grinding them together, trying to like sand them down. And I read about mercury fillings off gassing mercury vapour, which then gets stored in your cells. And I was like, I think this is me. Like, I was so shocked. And I was like, right, what am I going to do? I was like, I'm going to have to find out. So fortunately, I joined a group called Antidepressant chelation protocol. It's called Antidepressant on Facebook, and I just read everything, all the information they had on there, and it just explained everything. I needed to take a hair mineral test to check on my likelihood of mercury toxicity, and I done the test, and it come back the highest level that you could possibly get, the highest score. Like from my hair analysis, like the laboratory, it came back like it had mercury in my body, and all my minerals were deranged as well. Like all my electrolytes were depleted, potassium was like hardly there. And I was like, how can doctors not know this? Like, I was just so confused, like, because I had been conditioned all my life to believe that doctors and the government were the right people, and you know, you trust them. And to hear like they can fit fillings that have made me so ill that I wanted to die was just like incomprehensible. So you basically can't just get your fillings taken out by a regular dentist. You have to go and get them done by a holistic dentist who specialises in removal of amalgam fillings. Because if a dentist goes and starts drilling your filling, releases a whole load of vapour, and it gets stored in your body, it makes you ill. So I had to go travel a 200-mile trip, 200-mile round trip, and pay for a private holistic dentist. It cost me about 400 quid altogether. Had to be put on like oxygen in my nose and the rubber dam. Had to be covered with like protective material. I got my fillings out. So this was actually a month ago. I also started on supplements that I needed, because it turns out that mercury poisoning affects your whole body and you're just basically loaded with toxins. So I had to start on, it's called the Core Force. It's vitamin C, magnesium, zinc and vitamin E. I'm not going to go into the protocol on this video much. I'll do it on a different video because there's a lot to go through. And I was wondering, like, why have I been affected by this and like other people don't? Like, I know people with mercury fillings who are seemingly fine, like they have got health problems, but they're not like this. They weren't like this. And it turns out that I have a genetic mutation which is very common, called MTHFR, and it kind of prohibits you from detoxing properly. So things that go into your body that are toxins, rather than being processed and flushed out through your liver and your feces and your urine, you actually store them in your cells. So I don't know what mutation I have, because I'm still waiting for the results from the laboratory about the enzymes that I have, but I do have the mutation and it's been confirmed, but I don't know how severe it is, so I will update you on that. So that's why I could never take drugs. I could never do anything to do with toxins. Like alcohol would really affect me for days after, because I can't detox properly naturally. My homocysteine level is high and my folate level is low, so I started taking methyl folate, but I might need folinic acid, not folic acid, but folate, something else. Sorry, I'll get into that on the next video because I don't actually know what I need until I get my results, but I mean I'll need a special methylated B vitamin. So that'll help the detox pathways. But I got the fillings removed, and I'm actually going to start something called chelation therapy. I need to do a whole nother video on that, but if you have got to this point and feel like this might be you, if you have amalgam fillings, and even if it didn't happen when you had them put in, your toxic burden body level may have reached its peak. Even if you've smoked weed and it's the personalization's not went away, it might be because your burden level was just tipped over the edge, and you basically got that many toxins in your body that it's affecting your brain as well. And that's what's happened to me. A lot of people who have Mercury toxicity and on the groups have like frequently mentioned depersonalization, and they've been cured from chelation therapy. So chelation therapy, I'll just quickly say, because I need to get this in the video in case you suddenly think, you know, you're going to start it. You need your fillings out first safely, and you need to do a low dose protocol. The best one I've found is Andy Cutler's chelation. If you just go and start taking a load of chelators, it's just going to basically drag the mercury down in through your body and dump it in your blood and make you more sick. The same thing happens with coriander and chlorella, is it called? They can move mercury around, but again, no one knows the half-life of it, so they can't judge how it's going to affect the heavy metals in the body. I'll go into this in the next video, but I'm basically feeling a lot better because I've been on the right supplements. I've been supporting my adrenals, which were actually fried. The depersonalization is actually feeling this week especially kind of a lot clearer. I felt the best I have this week, and I have the whole 9 months. And I know it's because I had my fillings out and I'm starting to slowly detox, but I need to pull it from my brain with the chelation therapy. So I'm actually starting that next week on Monday. I'll keep you updated with that. So thank you for watching this video. I hope it helps. Never ever give up. There's always a reason for everything. Everything has a reason, and that includes depersonalization. And if you've suffered like this for 20 years, maybe you've had heavy metals stuck in your body for 20 years, just don't believe everything you read or everything you've been told to believe, because you've got nothing to lose. You know, I was desperate. I would do anything. I would cut an arm off to feel better. Luckily I didn't have to. So yeah, so I'll speak to you in the next video.